At 68, Dwight Yoakam has ignited a firestorm with a revelation that's rocking Nashville to its core. After decades of keeping the public guessing, hiding behind rhinestone suits, dark shades, and that unmistakable Bakersfield twang, Dwight has finally spoken. And what he's revealed? It isn't just career-shifting, it's legacy-defining. For years, fans whispered about what drove the honky-tonk rebel who refused to play by Nashville's rules. Now the man behind the music has peeled back the curtain, and what lies beneath is a story of grit, transformation, and a lifelong refusal to settle for anything less than artistic truth. It didn't start in stadiums or red carpets. Dwight's first steps into the music world were in the beer-soaked dive bars of Southern California. It was the late 70s, and the country music industry had no interest in his unapologetically twangy, rebellious sound. He was performing 5, sometimes 6 sets a night, dodging flying bottles, clinging to every lyric as if it were his last shot. This wasn't the polished Nashville stage. It was the underground, where the crowd either ignored you or turned you into a legend. And Dwight? He chose the latter. Back then, Nashville wasn't looking for a disruptor. Dwight found himself shut out. His 1976 trip to Music City ended in rejection. Producers cared more about chart formulas and less about grit. But rather than mold himself into their image, Dwight built a world that revolved around his. He blended the fire of Bakersfield with the emotional edge of honky-tonk, creating something few had heard but many would eventually crave. It wasn't just about music. It was about defiance, about rewriting what country music could be. But even legends need their moment. For Dwight, that moment was Guitars, Cadillacs. Released in 1986, it wasn't just an album, it was a declaration. A rebellious anthem that ripped through the glossy surface of pop country and delivered a raw, pulsing heartbeat straight from the soul of a man who had lived every lyric. The album went double platinum and sent a message to Nashville. Authenticity sells. But more than that, it endures. While the world applauded his country roots, Dwight quietly carved out a second identity, one that's gone largely unnoticed. He became a serious force in Hollywood. From Sling Blade to Panic Room, Dwight's performances weren't just side gigs. They were haunting, gritty, and utterly magnetic. He didn't just act, he transformed. Every role stripped away a layer, revealing a man who lived and breathed intensity, whether on stage or on set. And while most celebrities flaunt their lifestyle, Dwight kept his assets quiet but calculated. Take his financial profile. Dwight owns a stunning estate in the heart of the Hollywood Hills, surrounded by high-security gates and lush privacy. He's been known to cruise through town in vintage Cadillacs and restored muscle cars, maintaining that signature fusion of old-school swagger with elite precision. His watch collection? Rumored to include rare Patek Philippe pieces and limited-edition Rolex Submariners, symbols not just of wealth but of timeless craftsmanship, much like his music. And while he doesn't flaunt jets on social media, insider reports suggest Yoakam has had part-time access to Gulfstream and Learjet charters, used strategically, not extravagantly. When it comes to business, Dwight's strategy is all about longevity. He's quietly invested in publishing rights, real estate, and music production ventures, ensuring multiple revenue streams outside of performing. Unlike some celebrities who chase trendy brand deals, Yoakam has focused on ownership, holding on to creative rights and back-end royalties that continue to pay dividends. He's reportedly partnered with niche labels and distribution companies that prioritize independent artists, reinforcing his image as a maverick. Even his insurance strategy reflects this foresight. Industry insiders claim Yoakam holds comprehensive policies on his vocal cords, touring equipment, and even legacy rights, a testament to how seriously he takes his craft. So what can we learn from his financial playbook? First, discipline wins. Dwight didn't splurge on fame. He invested in endurance. Second, owning your work is everything, whether it's a song, a screenplay, or a brand. And third, style never fades when it's backed by substance. His spending, like his music, echoes restraint, taste, and long-term thinking. But just when the industry thought it had Dwight Yoakam figured out, he made a move that shocked even his closest fans. He teamed up with none other than Beck, the alt-rock innovator known for smashing genre walls. Their work on 2012's Three Pairs wasn't just an artistic experiment, it was a creative collision. Beck, the wild card, pushed Dwight into uncharted territory. He urged him to abandon perfection, to embrace the mess, and to record in the moment. It was risky, it was raw, and it worked. One track, A Heart Like Mine, Stand Out. Dwight laid down a guitar track he planned to re-record later. Beck stopped him. He told him to keep the take, as is. That decision captured a vulnerability and edge Dwight hadn't shown in years. For an artist known for control, it was a revelation. It wasn't just about music, it was about surrender. And that surrender birthed a sound that felt fresh, electric, and heartbreakingly human. Curious how a country outlaw made it onto indie playlists? Beck made it possible. He opened Dwight up to a new generation, one that might have never picked up a honky-tonk record but connected with truth when they heard it. And through this partnership, Yoakam didn't lose himself. He rediscovered something he'd left behind in those smoky bars all those years ago: instinct. That's what makes this next twist so fascinating. After decades of steering clear of spotlighted controversies, Dwight's recent confession sent ripples through the industry. He admitted that the fame, the pressure, the constant demand to deliver the authentic outlaw almost broke him. Behind the cool swagger and sharp lyrics was a man privately battling isolation and burnout. But instead of stepping away, he chose to channel that emotion into a creative renaissance. The result? A resurgence that feels more honest than ever. And that's where Dwight Yoakam leaves us. Not just as a country legend, but as a living blueprint of resilience. A man who walked away from conformity, built his own lane, risked failure, and emerged with a catalog that resonates across generations. From Panic Room to the Newton Boys to Crank, Yoakam took roles that, on paper, seemed minor. But once the camera rolled, he gave them a pulse. His portrayals were always soaked in realism, often tapping into the same emotional grit that powered his music. On shows like Under the Dome and Wilfred, Yoakam reminded audiences that his artistry wasn't confined to the stage. He lived in the skin of complex characters. He didn't just play them, he understood them. And perhaps that's the most arresting part. Dwight Yoakam's performances never screamed for attention, yet you couldn't look away. He became the kind of actor that Hollywood now calls a quiet storm. Unpredictable, magnetic, unforgettable. But if his silver screen presence surprised fans, what happened behind the scenes shocked everyone more. Beneath the fame was a simmering struggle against Nashville's powerful machine. When Yoakam entered the country music arena in the 1980s, he didn't do it politely. While the industry was drifting toward the glossy sound of urban cowboy, he turned toward the gravel roads of Bakersfield. This wasn't nostalgia, it was a revolt, and it cost him. Country music gatekeepers didn't take kindly to his bold aesthetics. Tight jeans, rhinestone jackets, and a cowboy hat worn with the defiance of a rock star. Nashville wasn't just skeptical, it was dismissive. But Yoakam didn't flinch. He doubled down, launching his music from rock clubs in Los Angeles, rather than country showcases in Music City. That rebellion bore fruit in the form of guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc. An album that would ultimately rewrite his fate. Because what followed was a legacy that didn't just survive, it shaped the genre. Nashville eventually came around, but not before Yoakam carved a lane wide enough for others to follow. rebels, misfits, artists with soul. His influence still echoes in today's generation of alternative country artists who trade commercial polish for honest, gritty storytelling. And yet, some battles are harder to win. Yoakam's partnership with longtime guitarist and producer Pete Anderson was one of country music's most enduring alliances. For nearly 20 years, they produced records that not only climbed charts, but raised the bar for musical authenticity. Together, they were alchemists of sound, Anderson's razor-sharp production, meeting Yoakam's melancholic melodies. Albums like This Time and Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room remain touchstones in country music history. But by 2004, the harmony was gone. When Anderson filed a lawsuit against Yoakam for breach of contract, alleging significant financial losses after canceled performances, fans were stunned. The case, though settled out of court, marked an end to an era. One of the most powerful creative partnerships in Nashville had collapsed. Not over music, but over money and misalignment. And the truth hurts. Sometimes the people who help build your dream are the ones you're forced to leave behind. The fallout changed everything. Yoakam took the reins of production himself, leading to a subtle but noticeable shift in his sound. It was a reinvention born of necessity. And it worked. But the sting of that breakup remains palpable for fans who consider their work together a golden age. But perhaps the most quietly explosive chapter in Yoakam's saga came in 2021, when he took on the Goliath of the industry, Warner Music Group. The issue? Ownership of his own music. Yoakam launched a copyright lawsuit against the label over his debut album, Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., etc., asserting that under U.S. copyright law, he had the right to reclaim his master recordings. The label had continued to monetize the material long after the 35-year period permitted by law, and Yoakam had had enough. This was no vanity move. It was about reclaiming control of the music, the narrative, the legacy. It's a battle many artists face, but few win. Yoakam's case settled privately in 2022, and while the terms remain confidential, insiders speculate it resulted in significant changes regarding licensing and royalties. Financially, the impact was enormous. With the reclaiming of rights, Yoakam could license his songs directly, ensuring profits came to him, not to middlemen. His current net worth, estimated around $45 million, is a testament not only to his talent, but to his business acumen. Over the decades, his earnings have grown steadily, from modest club gigs in the 80s to sold-out tours and streaming royalties in the digital age. His lifestyle has evolved just as dramatically. Yoakam owns a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, including a sprawling Spanish-style estate in the hills of Los Angeles, valued at over $4.5 million. Known for his eye for detail, the property blends vintage charm with modern luxury, much like his music. Additional holdings include a Nashville getaway and a restored Victorian home in Kentucky, close to his roots. Collectively, his real estate assets are worth nearly $10 million. The man who once drove beat-up trucks to dive bars now owns a fleet of luxury cars, including a vintage 1969 Mustang Fastback and a Bentley Continental GT, an ode to elegance and power. His taste in timepieces? Equally refined. He's been spotted wearing a classic Rolex Submariner and a Patek Philippe Calatrava, timeless watches for a man who's mastered the rhythm of reinvention. How did a country outlaw with a cowboy hat become one of Hollywood's most under-the-radar luxury collectors? Yoakam doesn't flaunt wealth. He never had to. The lifestyle, the homes, the designer suits. These aren't just status symbols. They are artifacts of a life lived deliberately, authentically, and often at odds with convention. And yet Yoakam's story remains incomplete without this next question. After surviving battles with Nashville, producers, and major labels, what's left for him to conquer? It turns out, legacy. His return to touring after the legal battles signaled more than a comeback. It was a resurrection. Younger fans, many discovering him through streaming platforms and film cameos, see Yoakam not just as a country legend, but as an icon who defied the system. His social media presence is subtle but powerful, hinting at new music, remastered releases, and perhaps even a biopic in development. Yoakam's story is far from over. His next act may yet be his boldest. And in a world constantly chasing the next trend, Dwight Yoakam remains defiantly original. Maybe that's the most revolutionary thing of all. It started as an ambitious leap. Dwight Yoakam, the country music renegade, decided to take the reins in every aspect of filmmaking with South of Heaven, West of Hell. He wrote it. He directed it. He even funded it. But this wasn't just a film, it was a full-blown emotional investment, and it nearly wrecked him. Back in 2000, Yoakam wasn't just trying to break into Hollywood. He was determined to bend it to his will. The film boasted a star-studded cast: Vince Vaughn, Bridget Fonda, Billy Bob Thornton. But what should have been a breakout moment quickly unraveled. Critics slammed it, audiences ignored it, and the financial fallout was brutal. Yoakam, who had sunk personal savings and even taken on debt to finish the film, was left staring at the harsh reality of what creative overreach can cost. Here's the shocking twist. Despite the flop, Yoakam never called it a failure. He called it a lesson. The aftermath wasn't just financial. Behind the scenes, longtime collaborators were walking away. Lawsuits were brewing. Bandmates were at odds. The man who once electrified Nashville was now facing turmoil from every direction. And yet, there's something almost poetic in how he weathered it all. Rather than retreat, Yoakam leaned into the fallout. If the film didn't succeed, the statement still stood. It was a reminder that real artists take risks, even when the odds are merciless. But Yoakam's journey wasn't just about a misfired film. He rebuilt, slowly, smartly, strategically. You might remember him as the brooding menace in Sling Blade, or maybe as the unhinged invader in Panic Room. But those weren't just acting credits. They were his way back. He immersed himself into roles that clashed with his musical persona. That grit, that swagger, he stripped it away to become characters so raw, so convincingly dark, that audiences forgot the man behind the music. In Wilfred, he pivoted toward the surreal, and here's where the plot thickens. Every role added a new layer to his music. Yoakam didn't just become a better actor, he became a deeper songwriter. He said it himself. The stage and the screen demand the same thing: truth. That's where Dwight Yoakam separates from the pack. While the world watched his Hollywood gambles play out, few realized he was quietly building an empire. Financially, his journey reads like a Southern Gothic fable. He's now sitting on a reported net worth of $45 million, but that number barely scratches the surface. Over the years, Yoakam has invested in real estate, purchasing properties in Tennessee, California, and Kentucky. His Los Angeles estate, a rustic modern retreat nestled in the Hollywood Hills, is rumored to be worth nearly $4.2 million alone. Behind the cowboy boots lies a man with the instincts of a mogul. His car collection includes a vintage Ford Mustang convertible and a luxury Mercedes-Benz S-Class. He's been spotted with a Rolex GMT Master 2 on his wrist. Classic, understated, and fiercely valuable. And while he may not flaunt private jets like other celebrities, insiders say Yoakam charters premium jets for cross-country tours. A move that combines flexibility with financial pragmatism. Yoakam's financial acumen doesn't stop there. He's held ownership in music publishing rights, diversified into production companies, and leveraged his Sirius XM show, The Bakersfield Beat, into a lucrative media extension. That show alone, which pays homage to California country legends, became a surprising hit with Gen Z listeners, bridging generations in a way no algorithm could predict. What's even more fascinating? He's covered himself with smart insurance policies over the years. From income protection in case of tour cancellations, to property insurance covering his musical instruments, some of which are valued in the six-figure range, Yoakam has quietly guarded his empire with precision. His long-term health insurance policies, reportedly initiated in his early 40s, now provide coverage that lets him perform with peace of mind well into his late 60s. One of the most powerful lessons from Yoakam's playbook? Build slow, invest smart, and never chase flashover substance. While others chased trends, Dwight built timeless assets. And that's where his influence ripples beyond entertainment. Young musicians today look to Yoakam not just for lyrical inspiration, but for guidance on how to survive fame. His legacy is less about stardom and more about stewardship, of talent, of money, and of self-respect. He doesn't just wear the cowboy hat, he wears the weight of wisdom. It's no coincidence that his mentorship of younger country stars has quietly surged in recent years. His advice? Don't follow the crowd, follow the craft. Collaborations with up-and-comers on indie labels, surprise appearances at Nashville songwriting circles, Yoakam is shaping the future from the shadows. But perhaps the most emotional reveal comes not from a film, or a track, or a dollar amount. It comes from his own reflections. He's spoken about how every heartbreak, every professional rift, every unexpected detour has made him more empathetic. That vulnerability is now woven into every note he sings, every character he plays. "You don't just perform pain," he once said. "You carry it." Rumors swirl of a directorial comeback, this time with studio backing, a tighter budget, and lessons learned from the chaos of South of Heaven, West of Hell. Others speculate about a memoir, one that might finally unpack the truths behind the tabloid headlines. Whatever he chooses, one thing's for sure. Dwight Yoakam doesn't just chase greatness, he redefines it. And that's a wrap on the wild, wonderful, and wickedly unforgettable life of Robert Mitchum. Hollywood's original bad boy with a heart of gold and a voice that could stop traffic. From chain gangs to Oscar nights, he did it all with a wink and a shrug. If you loved this deep dive, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more legendary tales coming your way.